We're now joined by Dr. Rajesh Parekh, Director Medical Research, Jaslok Hospital, and we're also joined by Dr. Sulfi Nuhu, State President-elect, IMA Kerala. Thank you so much for joining us. And Dr. Sulfi, first to you, Kerala has remained a big worry, with the number of cases being reported there, over 20,000 cases being reported over, a few days. In fact, 37% of India's active cases are from Kerala.
Yeah, actually, the test positivity as well as the total number of cases are a little more, definitely more in Kerala. And we did around 1.6 lakhs tests yesterday, and it is, again, it is more than 20,000. And definitely the TPR is the most important factor. There are other factors also, but we have to bring down the TPR to below 5. And definitely the festival season is coming. Onam is coming. Onam is close to all Malayalis' heart. It's a great festival. It's a big festival, big occasion. So we have to have a special precaution for the coming days. Maybe
but there's already been criticism over the easing of restrictions ahead of Bakrid and how this could have led to a rise in the number of cases. And everybody's talking about what is the issue with the Kerala model, given something that was praised a lot earlier, but now with Kerala consistently showing high cases.
See, the Kerala model is absolutely intact. Don't worry about it. It's absolutely intact. This Kerala model, it's there for the last 50 years plus. So the Kerala, nothing wrong with the Kerala model actually. So and again, I want to repeat this. Not just 3 days of Eid relaxation caused this increase. There are multiple reasons.
Sure, but that was criticized coming in when you're already having high numbers, to allow such relaxations.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely the Onam is coming, and another festival is coming. So we have to take, we have to give relaxation also, but very, very cautiously and scientifically. I think the government is preparing another module or maybe another methodology to implement the relaxation in coming days. Probably we cannot give a total relaxation anyway. I think the Onam we will be celebrating with a lot of restrictions this time. So we have to do that. We have to reduce the crowd. We have to reduce the indoor activities. We have to do more outdoor, maybe outdoor shopping and all. So many things we have to do. And definitely, again and again, we have to increase the vaccination. Just the other day, we did give vaccine for more than 5 lakhs in a single day. So we need more vaccine, and we have to vaccinate as many people as possible.
All right, we're also joined by Dr. Ravinder Mehta, Chief of Pulmonology and Critical Care, Apollo Hospital. I'll just come to you, Doctor, but first let me go across to Dr. Rajesh Parekh. And in Maharashtra, currently they're considering easing of restrictions in several, districts which are showing a low number of cases, and also a special, that people who are fully vaccinated will be allowed to take the local trains, will be allowed to go to malls and cinema halls.
Yeah, I think that's okay. It's to be expected. But I think if we see this in the context of what's happening in Kerala, and Gargi, I assume that's what you're leading up to, that Kerala eased some restrictions during Eid, and now we are seeing an increase in number. And perhaps the implicit question in that statement is this the right thing to do? Well, if you will just bear with me, I will just reiterate what was said earlier, that the Kerala model is intact. It's pretty good. And despite the numbers that we are seeing, and this is because we are at a stage in the pandemic where by the variables that go into our decision making are becoming a little more complex than they were in the early days. In the early days, you saw 20,000 cases going up a day, 37% of the daily increase in the country. In itself, that would be an issue of concern. But we'll see, Gargi, that paradoxically, this is a reflection of how successful the Kerala model has been earlier in this pandemic. And to do that, we have to now see it in the context of some more variables. Look at the vaccination rate in Kerala. 21% of Kerala has received both doses, as opposed to 7% of our country. That's 3 times the vaccination rate. Now, if you see this additionally in the context of the seroprevalence data that was released just a few days ago, Kerala has 43% seroprevalence as opposed to 68% in the rest of the country. What does this tell us? This tells us that the early moves that Kerala made as part of its model have actually been overwhelmingly successful, leading to a lower seroprevalence rate. Now, if you see that in the context of vaccination, and more important, a third variable, even at these rates, only about 50% of the hospital capacity of Kerala is being currently consumed, which means they very successfully flattened the wave to begin with. At no point are they getting overwhelmed. And when we see it in the context of the increased vaccination and the low seroprevalence, this is not something I would be worried about. And therefore, if you now extrapolate to what's happening in Maharashtra.
If we take a look at the seroprevalence numbers, in Madhya Pradesh, it was the highest, around 79%,
Exactly.
in UP over 70%. Does that mean the data we were getting from these states is under question? Because that is something I know a lot of experts have pointed out to.
Yeah, to an extent it does reflect that, because I was just about to point out that Kerala has also had a high rate of testing, and not only testing but targeted testing in areas where they expect a high positivity rate. Other states have somehow not been so particular about highlighting their high positive rates, and very often the testing rates have been in districts where they expect a low prevalence. So, the positivity rates look good on paper, but on the other hand, when you look at the seroprevalence, that gives you another perspective altogether.
Right. Dr. Mehta, now a lot of talk over, the expected third wave. Earlier we were told it perhaps would come at the end of August. We're in August now, or maybe in September. Also worries over our vaccination rates, because it should be at least over 85 lakh a day, but we're, hitting around 40 lakh. Yesterday, I think it was just around in the 30 lakh numbers. And that remains a big worry in covering an adequate proportion of the population, by the end of the year, to prevent any more waves from coming.
Yeah, so the whole thing is that the third wave has been talked about, I think, towards the end of the second wave, as we did our critical audits and realized that we can't just sit on complacently and just say, okay, things will be fine. But if you look at the genesis of the third wave, say just dial the clock back, and we usually follow the Western countries by around 3 to 4 months. I mean, UK had its second wave in December end, and we started our second wave in somewhere close to March and early April. So I think there is a latency, an inherent latency which the virus has, because it's actually gone through a good deal of the population already. Vaccination is more than ever before. So there will be a latency. The only thing to break this rule is the fact is variant. If there's a variant which is creating a havoc, but I think we've already gone through a variant. So bottom line is, though the third wave is imminent and expected, two things we hope for. One, it will be down the line. We use this time to actually ramp up vaccination. C, we learn our lessons. Why are all of us, crying foul when the numbers increase? Because if this is the beginning, give the people the intimation that this is going to happen. If this happens in New Zealand, they just shut down the island. If it happens in India, we have to just raise the alarm and say, okay, authorities, people, get your act into shape, and preventive vaccinators, please do your job. So I think this is what's going on right now. And the answer, as you said, we've said a million, billion, zillion times, is vaccinate to glory, so that we can at least get the population protected one way or the other.
No, absolutely. And Dr. Mehta, there'd been so much talk of the impact, the third wave, and about children, and now there's a lot of talk about opening up schools and how this is necessary, especially if adults are being vaccinated, and children have already lost out in so much of their education. So some sort of different approach to this, having classes once a week for different classes, but just getting the kids back into some sort of form of formal schooling. What is your view on that?
Yeah, so it's a wave by wave analysis. If you dial the clock back when we were all talking a year ago, no schools at all. I don't want my child to be at risk at all. But now a year later, you realize that especially in areas where this online is not going on, and even online has limited effectivity, children are not getting educated at all. So with new understanding, a little bravado, a little experience from other parts of the world, and more importantly, the most commitment, can we send these children to school in some sort of a staggered hybrid fashion, and that too creating areas of protection, as you mentioned. The word used by the Western authorities, vaccination rings. If you can create a ring where the parents, the children, the teachers, the system is reasonably vaccinated, and then keep an alert for infections, along with the precautions, you can probably do it in part measure. The time has come. I don't think we can indefinitely, keep these kids away from school and so on, because it's not working, and the long-term effects of that are going to be detrimental. So a lot of thinking on this, a lot of controversies on this. The stakeholders are the school people, the parents, and the government. But in all, I think we will have to test the waters as long as we don't get these spikes.
Right. Dr. Parekh, your view on this, because we've also, I think, realized through the Sero surveys that a lot of the children have already been through COVID and not even felt it, been asymptomatic pretty much.
Well, my view on this is very clear, that health must necessarily get precedence over education. But on the other hand, Gargi, I watch with fascination what's happening in Kerala and what has been happening there for almost 3 decades. And it's interesting because if Kerala has had 2 priorities, they have been health and education. They have a phenomenal literacy rate, and I dare say they have a wonderful health program. So I am curious to see what Kerala decides as its higher priority. I hope it is health over education, because there's no health, there can be no education.
But it's out of the box thinking of how to approach and ensure that children come back to schools, and I can see you're a big supporter of the Kerala model. Dr. Sulfi, your view on this?
Yeah, actually, absolutely. Kerala has to give more priority. We have been giving more priority to health and education, definitely. See, we have requested the government to allot more percentage of the total GDP of the budget to the health sector. I think the government last time they have increased. Now, we have to invest in health. Just take the example of China. Even though we criticize China, they did wonderfully well because they have invested huge amount in the health sector due to SARS. Now in COVID-19, they were well equipped. So we have to invest more in health, definitely, as far as Kerala is concerned.
And Dr. Sulfi, what is the view in Kerala on getting children back to school in some form, ensuring teachers and everybody involved are fully vaccinated, and some sort of staggered schooling, but beginning a physical schooling?
I think we have to wait for a little more time, at least in Kerala, to think about reopening of schools. We have to vaccinate the below 18 also, at least the 12 to 18 age group. We have to vaccinate all the teachers, all the staff out there in the schools. We have to do some homework. We have to use outdoor areas. We have to make shifts in schools. I think we have to wait little more to think about reopening schools in Kerala.
All right, and looking at getting vaccines for those below 18 is what you're saying that you're waiting for. Well, thank you so much, doctors, for joining us on the program, and we'll continue to have these discussions. Especially worrying to see that the R factor has now gone to 1, and that's one of those signs that the numbers are increasing. Thank you so much for joining us.